Hey everybody, this is Dan with another TaDa Ministries review. Now today we're not actually talking about a game. We're talking about a website that creates games. It's called the Game Crafter. They're a print-on-demand company that allows pretty much anyone to go out, upload some images, put them on cards or boards, pick out different bits like pawns and dice and chips and so on. They'll put the whole shebang in a box and send it out to whoever orders it. For customers, this gives a wide range of unique games. These aren't games you're going to be able to find at your local game store or on other internet sites. For designers, it allows you to turn your idea into a reality without having to find a publisher to carry you, having to buy expensive prototypes, having a minimum order of 500 units or something like that, or having to carry inventory. Now the reason why I'm even talking about this is a couple of the games that I've already reviewed and more games that I'm going to review come from the Game Crafter. So if you watch one of these reviews and you think, oh, that might be a game that I'd be interested in, I wanted to give you an idea of what games that come from the Game Crafter are going to be like. Some people are a little bit concerned with the whole print-on-demand model because they don't screen the games. Literally anyone could upload whatever they want as far as a game and call it the best thing since Monopoly, as if that'd be difficult. What we're going to do is talk about some of those different things so that you know exactly what to expect when you go ahead and purchase a game from the Game Crafter. In addition, we're going to talk about the Game Crafter from the point of view of a designer. If you have an idea and you're thinking about turning that idea into a real game, is this something that you would consider, or is this something that would be helpful to you? We're going to talk about that a little bit down the road. So, let's talk about the Game Crafter. Alright, so you're thinking about buying a game from the Game Crafter, or maybe you're not and we're just pretending that you are. What could you expect, or how do you do it? First of all, if you can buy anything online from anywhere else, then you're going to have no trouble buying something from the Game Crafter. If this were $19.99, I might have to step through how to do that, but I won't insult your intelligence or waste your time with that today. Simply go to thegamecrafter.com, click the shop link, either search by a category or search for the game by name or designer name or something along those lines, and away you go. Now each game that comes out, the designer is able to put in a description of what they think the game is like. They can put in some pictures of happy people happily playing the game and things like that. And a lot of them also put their rules out there in electronic format so you can easily read it and then get an idea of how the game actually fits together and kind of flows. We'll talk more about this stuff in a minute. When you order it, you're going to get an email confirmation when it ships. Obviously, when you order it as well, you'll get a receipt. And you'll be able to track that shipment through stamps.com. Now, when your order shows up, it's going to come in a very nice but plain little white box based on the size of the order or the size of the components in that game. For example, when I ordered Panzer Clash, it came in this size of a box because all it had were the standard 3.5 by 2.5 inch poker cards. What it also comes with is a black and white sticker with the game emblem on it because this is also the game box. It's not just the shipping box. Because if you get a larger box, you have larger components, they're obviously going to come in a larger box. My prototype of Lava Island, a game that I'm working on, has a 16 by 10 inch board. It came in this guy. You could fit a small pizza in this thing. You could fit a medium pizza in this thing if you're really pushed. But anyways, they're fairly nondescript, but really it's a box, so what do you do? Most folks are going to be much more interested in the components that came with the game than the box that they arrived in. And the components are great. They're exactly what you would expect them to be. 6-sided dice have exactly 6 sides, no more or less. Plastic pawns look just like a plastic pawn. I mean, these are pretty basic things you can't really screw up, but they come in just fine. They're of a good material. They're going to last for quite a while. They're just fine. The one thing that I will point out is that boards are actually really big cards. The Game Crafter doesn't have chipboard or corkboard boards. They aren't thick. So for example, a 16 by 10 inch board is just a really big cardstock clay coated card. It's the exact same material that they cut the playing cards out of. It's just a surprise when you open the box and see that in there. It doesn't affect the quality of the gameplay at all. They function just the exact same. But it's one of those things, and part of the reason why I made this review is when you open the box, I don't want you to say, why is there a really big card in here instead of a game board? That's just the way they do things. But again, the Game Crafter is expecting to be able to provide real chipboard game boards sometime. I don't know when. But that's where this is at. Now, if you run into any trouble with your order, if something is missing or something wasn't printed correctly, the Game Crafter has a forum on there where you can post any issues that you have and they'll take care of it. Now, if you're anything like me, you're leery of the word forum because that generally means black hole of absolutely no response ever. But that's not the case with the Game Crafter. I actually had an order come in of the Panzer Clash cards I did in my first review, and some of the backs of the cards were rotated a little bit. So the image showed a little bit of white on the bottom of some of the cards. Now normally that's not a big deal, I wouldn't worry about it, but in that particular game having a marked card, one where you could kind of tell that it was different from the others, is a big deal. So I mentioned it on their forum, they got back to me within the day, and they reprinted and shipped a new deck of cards to me, no additional cost. That was pretty nice. I thought that that was just a fine customer service experience. I wouldn't have expected any less than that, but they certainly met my high expectations. Now, whenever you place an order, you can expect it within 7 or 10 business days or so, and that replacement took roughly the same amount of time. Now let's talk about this print-on-demand model for a second. A lot of people are legitimately concerned that because print-on-demand companies like the Game Crafter don't do any screening or approvals or anything like that on the games that they sell, that someone could upload, frankly, an inferior game and pawn it off as something great. That's a legitimate concern. And the way that it's addressed by the Game Crafter is that they provide a lot of information about what you're going to buy. It's not necessarily just spun hype, but just real information. For example, every game contains a piece list. So every piece that comes with that, every die, every pawn, and so on, is listed right there on the game page. So you know exactly what bits you're going to get. A lot of designers also go out of their way to make sure that you get the information that you should have before buying it. They'll upload pictures of what the cards look like, so you can see the artwork, so you can see the layout of the cards, make sure they're legible, and so on. They will generally put out their rule books, so if you're interested in reading the rules to see how the game works, to see if it has any silly mechanics or something that you don't care for, it's all right there. The Game Crafter's forums also have a review section where people will obviously put out reviews of the games that they buy through the Game Crafter. A lot of the games on the Game Crafter also have a page on Board Game Geek. So if you head over to BoardGameGeek.com, you can generally look up that game, and there's generally some conversations and things like that about the quality of the game and so on. Many of the designers will produce a video, a tutorial video showing what the components are, how they interact and such. Some even go as far as to provide a review copy to people who produce reviews for the express purpose that if you're considering buying the game, they know you'll be more comfortable with it, having seen it out of the box, knowing that it's a quality game and not something that's, frankly, chintzy. So yeah, working with print-on-demand companies, there is a real concern as far as somebody being able to put whatever they want out there without qualification. But the answer to that, in my opinion, is to do due diligence, which the Game Crafter offers you the ability to do. But frankly, I can't give you an unbiased opinion on that because I'm a person who's a designer. I'm almost done with a couple of games that I plan on selling through the Game Crafter, so clearly I have a vested interest in this whole deal. So you can either take or leave everything I just said. Now, let's go and talk about the Game Crafter from the point of view of a designer. Maybe you or someone you know have an idea for the awesomest game ever. How do you turn that idea into a reality? Well, the Game Crafter might be an option that you could consider. The basic way the Game Crafter works is you go to their website, you create a free account, you download the templates of the size of boards or cards you're interested in, you create images for those boards based off of those templates. You'll upload those, you'll go through the Game Crafter's website and pick out any of the pieces that they offer. So you can pick out pawns, different types of pawns, different colors of pawns. You can pick out cubes, you can pick out dice and glass beads and miniature tanks, because every game needs miniature tanks. Pretty sure that's a requirement somewhere. And when you're done, you add that all together. They'll automatically tally the cost of all of the different pieces that you bought and all the cards that you bought and boards and so on, and that's the price of the game, or at least the wholesale price, and you can choose to mark it up from there. Now, there are some advantages and disadvantages to going with the Game Crafter for your publication needs. And those advantages and disadvantages roughly follow the basic idea of print-on-demand versus traditional publishing. So these ideas hold true if you're talking about board games or books or anything else. Print-on-demand has some strengths and weaknesses. Traditional publishing has some strengths and weaknesses. Now the basic difference between the two is that traditional publishing is going to set up their machinery for your game. And then they're going to run through a whole bunch of units. They're going to do a whole bunch of it, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't pay for them to set up all their machinery for you if you're just going to do one of them. So that's when you see a lot of minimum order requirements from traditional publishers. Minimum of 500 per order, or 250 or something like that. And the more you buy, the less expensive it gets per unit, because once they set up their machinery, it really doesn't cost them that much to create another one. Everything's already set correctly, so they just run another one through. So the per unit cost is relatively low in a traditional publisher, but you have your minimum quantities, and then you have to store your inventory, because really, are you going to sell 500 of them over the weekend? Probably not. So that's kind of the basic model for the traditional side. Print on demand, on the other hand, what they'll specialize in is being able to produce a couple units of a wide variety of different games or books or whatever they're producing. Because of that, their per unit cost tends to be a little bit higher, because they aren't just setting up just for you and then running through a whole bunch of units just for you. They're able to do one for you and then turn around and do one for somebody else. So those are the two basic models as far as print on demand versus traditional. So the strengths of the Game Crafter then is that you can order a quantity of one. You don't have to have any inventory. You can send people directly to the Game Crafter and they can buy from the Game Crafter, and you never even talk to them. You don't have to deal with them one bit as far as selling your game to the general public. With a traditional publisher, you can't do that. You're going to have to order a preset number of different units, and then you're going to have to store those someplace, and then you're going to figure out how to get those to the end consumer. Obviously, the per unit cost of the Game Crafter is slightly higher. They're still reasonably priced, in my personal opinion, but they are certainly going to be higher than a traditional publisher. Another difference between print on demand and traditional publishing is that sometimes traditional publishers will allow for custom pieces, custom game bits and stuff like that. What the Game Crafter does so that they can do their print on demand is they have a list of their pieces that they'll supply. So you can't have banana-shaped wooden pieces, or you can't have this or that if it's not on their list. So if you want to create a game, you need to first look through the Game Crafter's offerings, see what kind of pieces they have and what colors they have and so on, and form your game around that. Now they're adding to their product line. As long as I've been there, they've added 1 or 2 pieces, I think. But still, it's a restriction that you have that you might not have on another company. Now, I can't speak for any of the other publishers out there, but I can say that the Game Crafter also has, in their benefits or advantages column, a great community. They have several different forums and some active people who are also helpful, or a combination of one or the other, who will answer pretty much any question that you might have. So if you're trying to figure out how to make your mountain look like it's 3D or whatever, there are people on there who are more than happy to give you some advice. Or if you're wondering about copyright and such, they can give you, obviously limited, but they can give you some advice, or at least links and different information so that you can continue researching that. It's a really handy thing to have a bunch of people to bounce ideas off of and that sort of thing as you're designing your game. Now, one great advantage of the Game Crafter is rights. They retain no rights whatsoever for the products that they produce for you. So whether you have the Game Crafter produce you one copy of your game so you can play it when your friends come over, or if you use them as your sole provider for your massive gaming empire, or if you use them as a prototype. So you could create a prototype so you can send it off to some other traditional publishers so they can see what your game actually looks like. They don't care, and they have no right to care because it's your game, and they retain no right over that whatsoever. So you can use the Game Crafter as long or as shortly as you would like, and you can walk away at whatever time you want with anything that you have produced. Now, obviously, this review is only designed to give you an idea of what they're going to be able to offer you. Head over to their website at thegamecrafter.com if you want more information. They have it all spelled out very clearly there. And obviously, thank you everyone for watching this review, and we hope to catch you next time around.